What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? So welcome to this week's discussion. So Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussions, Thursdays Ask a CISSP. This week will be Delisha Hodo from the SANS Institute, and then Fridays everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. Every episode gets an article, and then all those articles are rolled up into a newsletter that goes out on Fridays. So definitely tune in to all the places, like, share, subscribe to all the things, and leave us a rating. So we greatly appreciate that. Without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this next article comes from nextgov.com. It's written by David DiMaffetta, and the title of this one is More than 70% of surveyed water systems failed to meet EPA cyber standards, right? So EPA does actually have cyber standards out there, even though it doesn't seem like it, right? Because of some of the stuff that's happening when it comes to, these water treatment facilities and things like that getting breached. It's like, really? You got breached because you had Windows 7 on a machine that was end of life 10 years ago, stuff like that, right? Things that they should be doing that seem like regular cyber hygiene just are not getting done, right? When it comes to, and the things that they mention in here is things like training, reviewing their different processes, things of that nature. Like, it's just not getting done in a regular manner, right? But they actually have this thing is called the Safe Water Drinking Act. And like what it is these water treatment facilities are supposed to, follow these different guidelines, right? And one of the things they talk about in here, the guidelines they need to follow is actually reviewing. And I think this time frame is a little too long, but it's every 5 years they're supposed to review their was it disaster recovery plans, or what was it? It was the I'm trying to find it in the article here so I don't misquote it, but every 5 years they're supposed to be reviewing their processes and and reporting it to the EPA. And that just seems like too long of a time, like especially in this day and age when it comes to cyber. Like, the threats change way more frequent than that, to where if you're just like, if you follow that guideline and in 5 years you're looking at your policies and you're like, this was out of date 3 years ago, right? Based on the way of the world, right? Especially with AI being what it is and jumping us ahead so much quicker when it comes to things, right? Because we talked about AI and what it's doing when it comes to exploiting different vulnerabilities and things of that nature just by reading CVEs. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I can make this happen because I know what this is, blah, blah, blah. But to me, this just 70% of these water systems, right? Like, and this is since last September. So we're looking at, what are we in May right now? We're looking at 8 months worth. 70% of the systems that they looked at don't meet certain security standards, right? And the EPA, God bless them, right? Because it's like there are times where you think sometimes the United States government doesn't even care about different environmental protection, right? Depending on which party and whatnot. And we're not going to get into that, but that's what they had to compete with, is the fact that the EPA isn't taken serious as they should be. But the second one of these community water systems gets hacked, or there's some type of ransomware threat or something like that, it's a big deal, right? Just follow the simple security that you're supposed to, and it's just that number is just way too high with it being 70%, right? So even for people that don't drink water, you know what I mean? Because I've come across a couple people like, oh no, I don't drink water. I'm like, well, you drink water, it's in a smaller percentage than what you think, right? Like, your Mountain Dew has water in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't sit there and pretend like you don't drink water. You just don't drink it directly out of the tap or a bottle or whatever. But and we've done a few stories on this about community water systems that have been hacked, right? They've had different cyber threats to them, but it's because they're doing things that just seem so basic, right? And I try my best not to get where I came from, right? Like, I wasn't always in the cybersecurity realm, right? There was a point in time where I was just like, I didn't get my first computer until I joined the military. I didn't have one growing up. You know what I'm saying? So there are things that need to be done, and the fact, again, that this percentage is so high, and the fact that they're only requiring people to review these different recovery plans and things of that nature every 5 years, that's just too long a time frame in this day and age. So I'd like for it to get better, of course, right? And the fact that they're bringing attention to it is a good and a bad thing, right? It's a good thing in that, okay, we need to put money into this. We need to make people aware of this is what's going on. But what are you also doing? You're also notifying the enemy about this soft target that we know is soft targets, right? Because people are going after it. But now they're like, okay, well, 70%. Like, I didn't think the number was that high, and I don't know if it's that lucrative, right? But the hope is that it isn't, right? Because the U.S. government is like, hey, we're not paying anybody anything if you start going after this stuff. What we are going to start doing is start sending our teams out after you, you know what I mean, and start having these multinational, task force, to find you guys when you start messing with our oil and our water, and our food. That's what's going to start happening to you. So, but Ryan, what's your thoughts on this, Terry?
So I did find the piece you're talking about. So it says community water systems serving more than 3,300 people are required to conduct a series of safety assessments and revise their response plans every 5 years as part of Section 1433 of the Safe Water Drinking Act. So yeah, first, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit up all the websites that go by our name, as well as leave us some feedback. So it's greatly appreciated. We keep talking about the EPA, we keep talking about water systems, especially me being out here in Florida, right? The old Tamar was part of a cyber attack, so to speak. I mean, it's rudimentary. They had, like you said, Windows 97 running or something like that. Somebody RDP'd in and tried to poison the water supply and was stopped. But that's not out of the norm when you see 70% of these facilities are not up to snuff. Like, that could happen more frequently from an insider threat, not let alone our near peers, right? Like, how do you get rid of your enemy, right? Poison them would be part of the process. And if our water supply is that attainable, right, to reach in and touch, then like that would definitely be some critical infrastructure you would attack. I still don't understand the reasoning behind the political pushback on updating these systems. Like, initially I thought it was money, like the government just doesn't have the money to do it, but we have the money to start to at least fix this situation. But now I'm starting to think that maybe it's a little bit something a little bit more nefarious, where it's lobbying power. Like, perhaps people who run these facilities don't want or cannot upgrade them quickly, so they're pushing back through their as a constituent to the powers that be. Like, there's something weird happening here. Like, regardless of what party you identify with or what you believe, you got to protect your water supply. Like, literally everyone needs water. Like, that's something that we can't get around. Like, oh, I'll just buy bottled water. Like, well, these facilities are also part of the process, right? That's not coming from some magical entity somewhere else, right? Like, Zephyr Hills water comes from one of these facilities as well, right? There's a spring, and then it has to go through a process. So you're going to get got to, no matter how much water you've stocked up in your doomsday bunker. You're gonna need water at some point to do something. Clean clothes, treat ailments, right? And whatever it is. Like, water is very important to human beings. So it should be something that you think would be protected. And that come out of Flint, Michigan, right? Like, remember that was insider threat. That was somebody making a mistake, like flipping the switch, like, oh, we can do this with the water supply, and all of a sudden they poison their entire population. And there's still fallout from that. Like, there's still kids and even adults that will have behavioral issues. They will have mental issues. Like, they literally were poisoned for a long period of time. And I still don't know if it's been fixed. I think we just don't talk about it anymore. And that's right here in the States. And it wasn't even done by someone nefarious. It was just done because they were trying to cut a corner. And then issues like this happen, right? So some things need to be regulated. I know people are like, oh, I don't want government touching this. Like, unless you have a well in your backyard, some things need to be regulated. Even those are regulated to a certain extent, right? Well water is also supposedly regulated by the EPA to some extent. But I'm speaking out of turn on that one because I don't know enough about it. I don't have any well water where I'm at.
We city boys. We don't know nothing about that.
But yeah, I don't get it. These facilities are very critical to our well-being. They are under duress, really, to be honest with you, because they're being attacked on a daily basis, and all this stuff needs to be updated. And there's so many initiatives. Like, there was the SCADA thing that was happening where the government was trying to improve all the SCADA systems, but they only care about, it's apparently, oil and gas, which is also important, but that's profitable. Like, maybe water is just not profitable because it's a public service. And that's why they want to put it on the back burner. But you won't have anybody to work at these oil and gas facilities if they've been poisoned, right? Like, that you need to pull it back to the common denominator. Like, everyone needs water, so we should do something about it. But I digress. That's my rant.
And electric. Don't forget electric. Electric's enough.
Yeah, that's true. Like our power grids. Like we talk about that. Like that seems to happen every quarter. We talk about either a water issue or a power issue.
Yeah.
And then a colonial pipeline happens and that gets all the attention because people are putting gas in bags and nonsense. And they're putting water in bags. Like no one's panicking. Well, they do during hurricanes, stuff like that. They do panic and buy a bunch of bottled water. But I don't know. Like, unfortunately, or I guess it's going to have to be one of those situations where we have to see it to believe it. So it's going to be a community that gets hit some regard. That's not a Flint, Michigan. That's more in the heartland or something where they actually care about people. And they'll see it and they'll be like, oh my God, like, we need to do something about this. And they'll do something. But again, we try to stay non-political here at the other side of the firewall. But I just don't get it. I can't fathom why we don't want to better protect our critical infrastructure. I just don't get it. But I digress. With that being said, if for non-rants, please check in their other episodes. Monday, Tuesday, our topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursdays, Ask a CISSP. This week will be Delisha Hodel from the SANS Institute. And then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. We've consumed a lot of stuff. We want to talk about it. And then hit up all the websites that go by our name, either the other side of the FW, the other side of the firewall, or Ask a CISSP on all the platforms you could think of, to include a weekly newsletter that goes out called the Weekly Rundown, just like the Friday episode, where we put all of that stuff into one newsletter with a little slice of life in there as well, where we break something down. So this previous week, I was talking about Hellblade and playing on the new PC monitor and all that good stuff. So check that out. Hit up again all the websites that go by our name. Hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me on all the platforms. And I'd love to talk to you and get your feedback. And then leave us a rating somewhere where you listen to this podcast. So stay safe, stay secure.